Ever wonder what to do with the rest of this after you've cream cheesed your bagel? The answer? Buy 4 more blocks and make cheesecake. On this episode, I'm making not so basic cheesecake, and it'll be the best you've ever had. To start off, we're gonna begin with the crust. We need some sugar, melted unsalted butter, just a splash of vanilla extract, and then 1 package of graham crackers. You're gonna take the graham crackers and smash them. You can do this in a food processor or a blender or with a rolling pin. Once you've got that properly smashed, we're gonna put it into a bowl. And if there's some extra pieces that are still too big for the crust, we'll go ahead and smash them. Next, we're gonna add in the sugar. Add in the melted butter. And the vanilla extract. And then combine until all the graham crackers are incorporated with that butter. It'll make a bit of a paste. Once it's all incorporated and it's all wet and combined, we're gonna take a springform pan. These pans make it easy to get the cheesecake out afterwards. We're just gonna spray it a little bit on the sides. You don't need a lot because there's a lot of butter in the crust. We just definitely don't want it to stick. You're gonna take the crust and put it into the pan. When you push it around the pan, you wanna make sure that you're not leaving any holes and you're compacting it as best you can. Okay, now it's all combined at the bottom of the springform pan. We're gonna bake this blind, meaning there's not gonna be anything on top of it, in a 350-degree oven for just a few minutes, like 7 to 10. Set a timer for 7 minutes.
Okay, 7 minutes and counting.
Okay, the timer has gone off. It's been 7 minutes. You can let it go a little bit longer to 8, but you don't want to burn the crust too much because it's going to bake again with the cheesecake filling. So let's take it out of the oven, take a look. It's really started to form that crust. It looks a little bit more cohesive, no longer like sand that's been packed together. We're going to let this cool all the way. You don't want it to be warm when you put the cheesecake filling in the pan. Now that that step's done, let's move on to the filling. In the meantime, we're going to preheat the oven 450 degrees. In the bowl of a stand mixer, we're going to combine our sugar. The amount is in the recipe at the bottom of this video. We're going to use the cream cheese. That half a block plus 4 extra blocks are about 36 ounces. If you want to use the rest of the cream cheese that you're not using for the filling, it's great on bagels or filling for ravioli. Next, we're going to put in the eggs. You need 6 of them, but we're going to try and combine this just a little bit so it isn't so much of a mess. Once this has started to combine, we're going to slowly add in the eggs. And it's going to make the filling a little bit more soupy. We're also going to add in a large dollop of sour cream, anywhere around 1/4 cup. It's perfectly fine. Again, scraping down the edges of the bowl as best you can. That way everything gets incorporated. You don't want big chunks of cream cheese in the cake. And lastly, you're going to want to add in vanilla bean paste. Now you can use vanilla extract, but the vanilla bean paste is going to elevate it just a little bit. It looks cool. It tastes way better than extract. And honestly, it'll change your life. You can get it on Amazon or at some of your grocery stores. Okay, once we have that in there, again, we're just going to make sure everything is combined. There's no chunks of cream cheese floating around this batter. Now you want to beat this mixture as long as it takes to get it smooth. If the paddle attachment isn't doing a good enough job at this stage, you can switch over to a whisk attachment and hopefully get it even smoother. The smoother this is, the better the texture the cheesecake will be, so this is a very important step. It's time to start prepping the pan. We're going to get out some aluminum foil. This is easiest if you have the wide sheets of foil, but if you only have these thinner sheets, we just have to do one little modification. If you skip this step with the tin foil, you're likely to get water potentially inside of your pan, which will ruin the crust. Okay, so once we have the two sheets, we're going to fold them together and try and make a watertight seal. Okay, next we're going to take our completely cooled crust, setting it in the center here, and then we're going to essentially build a wall around the pan. That way the water in the roasting pan that we're going to put this in the oven in doesn't get into the crust. You want it to be somewhat tight around the pan, but you don't want it to go up and over, and then you don't want it to touch the edge of the top of the pan, because if the cheesecake ends up touching that tin foil, when you remove it, it's just gonna it's not gonna look as good. We're gonna put the springform pan in the middle of a roasting dish, and then we're going to put boiling or near boiling water around the edge. But before we do that, we're going to put in the batter. So let's smooth this out on top. Okay, now that we have the cheesecake filling in the pan, we're going to pour that water in. And we're just going to go up part of the way. This is going to help the cheesecake cook evenly. Carefully, we're going to move this into a 450-degree oven. That's going to bake for 15 minutes at 450 degrees. Then without opening the door, we're going to reduce the heat to 225. It's going to bake for another hour, and at that point, we can check to see how it's done. So at the hour mark, I checked the cheesecake to see that it wasn't overly cooked, and it absolutely wasn't. It needed that extra 15 minutes. So we're at an hour and 15 minutes now. We're going to remove it from the oven, and then it's going to rest in the roasting pan with that water surrounding it for the next 45 minutes. You know the cheesecake is done when it is slightly wobbly in the middle. It'll set up and firm up just a little bit more as it cools, and then ultimately goes in the fridge. We're going to keep it here in the roasting pan with the water to cool for the next 45 minutes. It is completely cooled, and the cheesecake has been in the fridge for several hours, so it should be perfectly set up. We're going to take it out of the springform pan, plate it, and then have a taste. Okay, the beauty of the springform pan is we are just going to pop the edge. And then lift the cheesecake out. Looks great. We're then going to use a pretty big spatula, try and get in underneath the cheesecake. We want to support it as best we can. Pull it away. Crack the top a little bit, but that's okay. You can always cover that with topping. Okay, there we go. The best, not so basic cheesecake. When you're plating the cheesecake, make sure to use a hot knife and clean it off after each cut. That way you'll get these nice, perfectly straight, smooth edges. And then go ahead and top it with the sauce or syrup of your choice. Enjoy. This not so basic cheesecake is definitely a dessert that you need in your life. You're gonna let this cool completely. If it's still warm when you put the cream cake, cheesecake,